Hello everyone. So I welcome you again in this session on AWS. So today we are going to talk about EC2 instance. Today I will show you how to create EC2 Window instance and also how to connect it remotely. So let's begin. Okay, so first you have to log into your AWS account. You must be having one AWS account. So this is my screen of my account. You can see. So today we will use this EC2 option. As we know that AWS provides so many services, and these services are categorized into various headings. Like we have compute, inside compute we have so many things are there, like storage, security, internet of things, management, governance. Likewise, there are so many services are there which are suitable for different kind of requirements. Today we are going to use one service that comes under compute, and that is called EC2. EC2 means Elastic Compute Cloud. So here C comes two times, so we are calling in short EC2. Okay, so we'll click on this and it will take us onto the EC2 section where you find all the things which are required to set up your instance. Now, actually, when we say we are going to uh, make our EC2 instance, this is an activity which is very equivalent that we are going to set up one server. So here we are going to create one virtual server for us. So when we say virtual server means we need to check, or we need to take care that what kind of operating system we are going to install in our server, what will be the RAM available with that, what is the storage will be there, what kind of security we are going to provide on that server. So everything we need to configure here. So you can see this is a screen, and presently my screen shows that there is no running instances. Okay, so the very first step is log into your account, click on the EC2, open this screen, and then we go to instances and then click on instances. So we are going to create one instance. Now before we start, you have to always check that where you want to create an instance, in which region you want to deploy this. Now regions are basically geographical locations. So we have already discussed that AW has several regions across the world, and you need to deploy your resources and these instances on these regions. Now, so which region to select? How we find out? We have to find out that which regions your customer base exist. So we try to use the region which is very close to the customer, so that we can reduce the latency time. The customer can get the service very quickly. So if you are in Europe, you can go to search the region which is very near to your customer base. Similarly, you can see here there are a lot of reasons. If you are in, let's say, India, you can go for Mumbai region is there. You can select Mumbai so that you can serve your customer in a better way. Similarly, Singapore, Sydney, these have the reasons, and then there is AP South East 2 is the code. I am using here North Virginia because we are just doing a practice. North Virginia is the oldest region, and that supports all kind of services. There are some regions which is not supporting all the services which is provided by AWS, but you have to check that whether the service which you are looking is available on that region or not. So in our case, I select this US East and Virginia region. So I am configuring my entire instances on this North Virginia region. Okay, then uh, you can click on this launch instances. It will take you to the another screen. Now here, to set up your instance, to set up your server, we need to undergo 7 steps basically. So you can see all these 7 steps are here, 1 2 3 4. So we will just go one by one, and you will see what other things are required. So you can see that on the left hand side, the very first step is we are about to choose our AMI. AMI stands for Imaging Machine Image. It's basically provide us to select the operating system which we are looking for. You want to work on Ubuntu, Linux, Windows, and then which version of Linux you are looking for. So there are a lot of means images are available here. So images is basically, you can say it's a kind of template that provides the entire software configuration that includes your operating system, application server, application which you want to be there on your server. So if you can go to AWS marketplace if you are looking for any specific, if you have any specific requirement. So many companies are providing you a ready-made package. You just take from them and then just deploy directly and start working on your application. We have this is my AMI. So on my screen it is showing no AMI has been created till date. Now what does it mean? It means now I am doing some configuration for my server. Now if I have many different project teams are working on any project and they need to set up the server, and they all want to have you they all want to have a same kind of configuration. So there is no need to configure it again and again. You can just configure once. You can just uh, save this image, and wherever you want to use the same configuration you can just call that configuration and immediately start working on it. So there is no need to go all the 7 steps, because already you have make an image of your entire requirement and you start working on it. So this is also possible. Later in the later videos we will see that how to create our machine image. Then for today's lecture, basically we are focusing on just to have an experience that how the EC2 works and how we can connect with our server remotely. So, and again, we are using only a free tier. AWS provides a free tier version for the students, for all those who want to practice on AWS, if they want to have an experience with the AWS, or if they are preparing for any certification uh, like a cloud practitioner, like a solution architect. There are many different exams are there which are AWS is providing. So they are providing the free account so that the customer can have a field, or means any student or anyone who want to be willing to reach to or to work on AWS. So they can just make an account, just go through the services, configure their requirement, and then have an experience. Also it's good for the company who want to move to the clouds. So they also kind of motivate the companies to just use the free tier account and use the services what they are offering, and different facilities, different features that is available on the clouds, and they can self kind of analyze that what is the benefit if they move their company from on premises to cloud. So we are using the on this is we are going to use the free account. So I am going to click on free tier. So you will see these are all free tier. You can use any of the AMI. So you can see there is a Linux is there, Red Hat Enterprise is there, SUSE Linux is there, Ubuntu is there, Microsoft Windows is there. So means there are a lot of different uh, uh, AMIs are available. A kind of operating systems are available with a defined kind of configuration. So I am going to use this Microsoft Windows Server, and if you look to the description, it is Windows 2019, and here we are getting storage as a EBS, and virtualization we are using HVM. Okay, so I'm going to click on this, and here we are. Now what kind of instance type we are going to use? So presently this is the one that we are going to use, which is allowed for a free tier. So this is a T2.micro, and we are provided with one virtual one virtual CPU with 2.5 gigahertz with the Intel Xeon family, and it provides the EBS with 1 gigabyte memory. So you can see that how many virtual CPUs are there, how many memory you are provided, how many instances of memory you are provided. So this is free, that's we are going to use, but you can just scroll down to have a feel that different type of configuration you can use depending on your requirement. So because we understand this is a free, definitely the performance is actually not that much good, but for our purpose it is okay. So this is low to moderate, and if you are just scroll downward, you can see that we have instances which are having a very high performance. from moderate to high to 10 gigabyte, 12 gigabit. So depending on that, you can use it. Similarly, you can see we have the general purpose. Like you can see, this is compute optimized is here. We have now what is this compute optimized? You can see that it has a very higher ratio of CPUs to memory than the other families. Similarly, if you are having an application which requires or which is basically online gaming based, then you can go for GPU, which is a graphical processing unit, which is basically or mainly higher, which is generally required for 3D graphics or application which is concerning with the games. Similarly, if you are looking for memory optimized kind of instances, then we have all the combinations are there. So you can just go to the details that what are the different possibilities and how it can suit to your environment. All the configuration have the different charges, they have different features. So it all depends on your application and the requirement. In our case, we will do this one and then next. Okay, then how many instances we are going to select? So number of instances. So at a point, how many instances you are interested to create? So you can write 2, 3, 4. Here I am writing one, but normally when we want to create 2, 3, 4, we need to do some more settings that we can see in the later labs. At this time, I am creating only one instance. Purchasing option. So AWS provides a flexibility in using the resources. You can use on demand. On demand means whenever you use or the amount you use, you have to pay that much. Or you can reserve. You can say I will be reserving for 1 year or 2 year or 3 year, because if you reserve an instance or the resources provided by AWS, you get more kind of discounts. There's another option which is a very cheap option called spot instances, where you are not very concerned that you want to process every time. You are looking for the time when the resources are actually having a price which is suitable to you. So this is the current price. You can write your price, and if the price is going down, or if it is matching to your budget, it will be allocated to you. You can use this resource, and when the price goes up, and this resource will be released from you. So it's again kind of a flexibility to you, that if you are not immediately able to pay for the resource, and if you're looking for a cheap resource, you can just go for the spot instances. At this point, I am not going for the spot instance. I am keeping the things default. Then there is something called VPC. Every time when you create an instance, VPC is something called virtual private cloud. It's a kind of provision where you can create your own network. You can create your own subnets. You can allocate the IPs. You can just set up your traffic, that how the traffic can move inside your network. Everything we can do with the VPC. So if you are not using a VPC, then by default there is VPC is there. So I am using a default VPC here. Later when we will do VPC classes, we will be actually understand that how to set this, or what is the significance of this field. So at this point of time, we are just leaving the default. Again, because we are not creating any VPC, we don't have any subnet here, so we are just keeping the default. Even you are allowed to select that which availability zone you want to create this instance. So every region has a multiple availability zones. Availability zones is a kind of data centers. Okay, so with the Virginia, we have 6 availability zones are there. This is named as 1A, 1B, 1C. So whichever which particular you are looking for, you can select that. In our case, I am just keeping default. Auto assign public IP. Whenever your instance is created, it will assign you one public IP. Public IP means you want the instance to communicate with the outside world. If you don't want to allow your instance to be visible to the outside world, then we will keep it disabled. That means it will be kept as a private, and only private IP is assigned to it. But when I say auto assign public IP, means you want that your instance can be accessed by outside the cloud. And then you can see there is another option called enable. That means uh, you want to assign a public IP, but you want that this IP must be static. So what are the difference here? So if I assign a static IP, or we call it elastic IP, that means that IP will be constant. It will remain fixed with that particular resource or that instance. When you shut down your machine, when you shut down the instance, then also again when you restart, the same IP is assigned. But when we say auto public IP, that means there is a public IP, but these IP is keep on changing whenever it varies from time to time. When you shut down your instance, when you stop your instance, and then again you restart, your IP might change, but there is no problem that then if the IP will change, then how the things are managed. Everything is managed because there is there's a concept called net. With the help of net, all your resources are managed, so there is no worry about that. Placement group is another kind of facility that help us to reduce the latency and improve the performance. So to make the application running, there may be many instances and resources are used, and these resources are communicating, with each other. So the entire application are divided into various layers, and then we divide these resources to act on these layers, and all the resources which have to be do communication frequently, we keep it at one layer, or we can say we can place all the things in one placement group, so that we can reduce the latency and improve the performance. So this is also, I am just not doing anything, we are keeping default. Capacity reservation, I am again keeping it default, and the rest of the things I am just keeping as it is. IAM is something which is very very important. Here I am keeping it default, but IAM is something which is uh, used to provide authorization and access control to all your resources. So basically, through the IAM service, we are able to create the different users. We can assign different roles to them. We can create the security groups. We can make a system that can govern that how the resources are actually accessed, and what kind of permissions we are giving to the resources. They are we want to give the all permissions, or we want to give them only write permission or read permission. So all this kind of stuff can be done with the IAM role. Then shutdown behavior means whenever you shut down your resource, then what is going to happen? It is going to stop, or it is going to terminate. So if you say terminate, then every time when it is shut down, it is going to actually delete it. Then we have something called termination protection. Termination protection means if I click on this, that means your instance is not going to terminate. Now this is required when you are worried that any of your team members so can delete this. So as a administrator, if you are a team lead, and if a lot of members are working with you, and you have a kind of doubt that somebody may delete any instance or server by mistake, so you can put this check that it is not allowed. So if anyone tries to delete it, it is not going to allow, but will give a message that you are not allowed to delete this. So this is a kind of protection we are writing here. Then monitoring options are there. Monitoring means you want to just manage the performance. You want to monitor the entire working of your resources, of your instances, that how they are used, who is going to use, and uh, what is the performance you are getting out of your resources. Now with this kind of information, you can analyze it in a better way. You can decide that how to use the resources means optimally. So it provides actually a kind of log files to you, which is very very helpful to track your these resources, and also to make them optimal. Then we have tenancy. Tenancy is basically refers to the how the resources are going to be used. If we are going to use shared resources means resources can be used by many customer. Then we have also called dedicated resources. Dedicated resources means that one resource is only used by particular customer. So sometimes the because of the some compliances, because of some regulatory conditions, because maybe some policies, the company don't want to share the resources with the other people's or other customers, then they go for a dedicated. But definitely when you go for dedicated resources or dedicated tenancy, you need to pay an extra charge. Even if you are if you want to go for CloudWatch kind of monitoring services, so we are using free account. But if you want to avail some extra features, then they are mentioning that you have to pay for that. But we are not going to avail any of the features. We are just trying to understand. Okay, so moving to next. Now, what kind of storage? We have identified what operating system we are going to use, what kind of RAM we are going to use, then what kind of storage we are going to use in our server. So this is the default. I am keeping as it is, but just have a look on some points here. So we are provided with EBS, and we are having a general purpose SSD. So here you can see we have different kind of storage are available. They are called general purpose SSD, provisioned IOPS, magnetic standard. I can even select magnetic standard. This is something we are using, in our hard disk. It's a disk drive. This is the cheapest option. Performance is comparatively slow if you compare it with the other two. Most of the time, people go for general purpose SSD because it is a kind of moderated. It comes in between. It has a good throughput. It used for frequently accessed, applications. Provision to IOPS, that is the input output per second. This is the most costly in comparison to all the three available options. So at this point of time, I am just keeping the default general purpose SSD group 2, and size is 30 gigabytes, which is given to us. This is 30 is actually up to 30 you can use. You can make it 20, 10, and you can make it 80 even, but up to 30 is free. If you go beyond this, then you have to pay for it. I am keeping it the maximum limit, that is 30. Then we will discuss more about this different kind of IOPS and this different kind of volumes which are available, that you will see later. I am keeping this for default. Date on termination. So this is just we have checked here. That means whenever you select the terminate instance, then it will be deleted permanently. Okay, so what does it mean? It means we have a server. If you are going to delete the server, if you say terminate my server, that means if I click on this, that means I am saying delete my server, and also whatever the associate storage with that server is also to be deleted. Sometimes we delete the server, but we want to keep the data for us for a record purpose or for any other reasons. In that case, we say okay, delete the server, but the storage we want to keep with us. That also we can do. Then encryption in generally by default we are not provided with encryption, but if you want that whatever the data you are going to store must be encrypted, then you can here means mention what kind of encryption key you are going to use. And you are also going to use the service key management services, which is actually helping you that what are the different provisions which are provided by the AWS to encrypt your data. I am keeping here as a by default, that is no encryption. Then next is add tags. Now add tags basically gives you more meaning to your instance. It will give you more identity to your inform. It's a kind of logical concept where you provide some more meaning to your tags. This are very helpful when you have a lot of instances resources, and if you want to search for any instance, if you want to inquire about any instance, then these tags will be going to help you very much. So let's say I am working on some project where many different teams are also involved, and these teams are involved with different departments, you can say, or you can say with different status. Maybe there is one testing team, one development team, or if you are saying if you want to relate your instances with the department, let's say one is for the HR, one is for the placement, one is for other department. Okay, so you just give some meaning here that okay, name of the department and the value is HR department, something like this. So It all depends that how logically you are associating more meaning to your instance so that it can be helping you later. This is all optional. It's not mandatory to write. You can even make it blank. But it is said it's a good practice to add tags, and you must be knowing that you can add up to 50 tags maximum. So 50 is actually sufficient amount. But if you want to go more than 50, it's possible. You have to contact to AWS and ask for this permission to allow you to add more than 50. Then security group. Security group is a kind of firewall that is actually makes your application secure. So whatever the server you are going to make, you want to provide some security to it. Security group, basically we are also creating with the help of IAM. In the IAM we create our security group. We will assign that who will be our users, what they can use, what IPs can be allowed to access. So you can create your security group. If you have already security group created, you can use existing security group, or you can create a new one. So if you are going to create a new one, you have to give a name. Let's say I am going to give a security group 1 as a name. If you already have, you can search whatever security group you want to use. It will display all the groups. So in my case, let's say I'm going to create a new, and then you can write some description if you want to write that what is the objective of the security group, what actually the things you have allowed in the security group. It's all up to you. So just make a sentence here. Now we are going to create this window instance, and later we are going to access this remotely. So here I am assigning two things. One is the inbound and outbound. Inbound means what IPs are actually allowed and what ports are open to available to the outside world. So basically here we are setting that what IP addresses are actually allowed to access your instance. So when you say 000, that means, or you can say here the source with all 000 will be like all IPs are actually having an access to your applications. And then also you are specifying what ports are actually running on your server, so that if any of the IP, so here I am saying that any IP which is interested to use this port are actually allowed. So here we have option. You can say which IP, any specific IP you want to allow, or you want to say any IP. You can also add let's say if I say HTTP is also one port which I am allowing to be accessed in my server, and it runs on AT, and I say from anywhere can be used. Okay, then the next is the final step, that is just to review what you have did so far. So you just have a kind of just a summary that we have used this particular AMI Windows Server 2019, and we have used this instance type, and these are the protocols which are allowed. And then you can go with the storage, the tags which we have provided. So all the information you just cross check that what you have set, and if you agree that okay, I am satisfied with this, you can click on launch. So in order to access your server, we need to have one public key and private key with us. So you need to create one key pair, and one thing to remind that key pair, once you are creating here, you have to keep this private key secretly with you, because this is the only chance when you get this key. Once you lost this key, then you are not able to access your server. Now it is not required that every time you will create a new key pair, you can also use your existing key pair. So if you have an existing key pair, you can just select this option. Otherwise, if you want to create a new, you can click on create a new key pair and write a key pair name. So you can write here my private key, whatever name you want to give, you can give just my private key. So this you will get one file that is saved with the .pem extension, and this will be used when you want to connect to your server. Okay, so it will say download keep here. I have clicked on it and you will find that it has downloaded. It says my private key.pm I am going to store on desktop. So this keep is basically .pem file. Now everything is done. Now it's written here also, make a note that you will not be able to download the file again after it's created. So you need to be very sure that your files is properly saved, and you need to know what is the location. Okay, launch the instance. Okay, so now it is about to launch. Everything is done. Now we'll go and view our instance. Click on it. Now you can see that this is the instance which I have just created. So let me write, this is my Windows instance, my Windows server. Okay, it's running, but it is not yet ready to be used. Uh, Here we have one thing called status check. So in the status check, it keeps check of two things. One is called system status and instant status. So if the two things are actually okay, then it will show you 2 by 2. If it will show 2 by 2, that means your server is ready to work. So let me check. It is not yet ready. It is still checking. Now you can also see other points here. This availability zone is North Virginia. This is US East 1A. We have assigned one public IP. You can just have a look here. This public IP will be required later to connect to your server. We don't have any elastic IP. The security group is SG3. My key name is my private key, and at this time we have launched this instance. This is all the information regarding our instance. Let's see status, it's ready or not. We just refresh, and still it is not ready. So some checks are going here. So it is doing two status check, as I told you. By that time you can also look for more things. Just click on it and you will get all the properties of our instance. So when you click on it, it will show you this window, and you can just have a look here. You can just go details, that what are the basic configuration that we have provided. Okay, what is the public IP, private IP, what is the instance ID, what is the launch time, okay, what is the AMI configuration. You can also go to security, what security group we have used, what is the inbound rule, what are the outbound rules. In inbound rule we are saying only port 80 and port 3389 is actually working on our server, and we are allowing all the IPs to access our server. Outbound rule means we are allowing our server to connect to the internet and can go to the outside world. All IPs are allowed. So here we get all the information regarding the networking. Okay, like your public private IPs, what subnet IDs you are using, how many subnets are there, what are their IDs, storage information, and then again go for status check, and we'll see that is still it's actually checking. Actually it will take like 4 to 5 minutes to properly configure and make it ready for us. Again, 4 to 5 minutes are actually very less time, because if you are going to configure your real machine on the on premises, and depending on the type of machine, the storage you are using, the application which you want to run on it, it may take like more than 10 hours, or again depending on how bigger the configuration you're looking for, it may take more than 1 day to complete your machine ready for use. Here it will take uh, most of the time it will take like 4 to 5 minutes, and you will get your machine ready for you. So this is all the information. We can see this three buttons are there, so you can click on it. It will just go down, minimize, then this is use half screen, this is full screen. So likewise you can manage your screen while you're working on the console. We call it, this is console. Okay, then just again refresh and see the status. Now it says 2 by 2 check, both the checks have been done and you are ready to use your server. Now the time to connect. So we'll select this and go to action and click on connect. So we are using RDP. So I click on RDP. It will ask you to download one remote desktop file, which is actually required to connect to your server. Just keep in mind, I am going to save this on the desktop. Its name is windowserver.rdp. Okay, then the user will be the administrator, and the password we need to acquire. So the password we acquire, and the password, now this is my private key is already, we have one key pair which is required to to access our server. So we will just browse it, and then from the desktop we will select this my private key, open, and then you can decrypt this key, and then you have to copy this password in the decrypted format, and then we will try to connect to our server. Now we have already downloaded this remote desktop which is on my desktop. So I'll go to my desktop and will just start this RDP file. I will open this RDP. So I'll just click on this, and it will ask you to connect. So we have administrator, and the password we have just copied from here. You just have a look, we have just copied this password, and you can go here and then paste here, click on OK. It will ask you for some certificates. You just say yes, allow in to connect, and now we are able to connect to our server machine. So it is now going to start for us. Also you can see that this is the machine who is having 34 22 27 79 178 compute 1. Okay, so we will see that what does this means. So if you go to, just a minute, let it be start. So if you go to your console, you will find this is EC2 34 to 27 79 178. That means we are successfully connected to our server machine. You can see here this is 34 to 27 39 178. So now our server is running here. Now what else we can see? We can see the entire details here, that what is the public IP of our server, what is the private IP, what is the type of the instance, and what architecture has been used, that memory available to you, what is the network performance. So all the details you can see here on the screen. And also by default, when you have this server has no permission to install anything on this machine. You are not allowed to download something from the internet. So let's have a check. So you can just go to internet and type here, let's say I want to install WinZip. So I say install WinZip, or you can actually, you want to download the WinZip setup here. So you can see that blocked by the Internet Explorer. You are not allowed to means install anything. You are not allowed to download something from the internet. Now what you want that the administrator must be given the permission to install something, to download something, while the user are not allowed to perform all these tasks. So you want to provide this permission to the administrator. So we will go here and we will look for server manager to update this kind of permissions to the administrator. So server manager, you can go, and here you will find this is the server manager. Either you can click on this window icon and server manager, or you can just type server manager. So here you can find this is your server manager dashboard, and you can go to local server. It will show you different properties of your server. Here you can find IE enhanced security configuration, which is on. On means it is disallowing everyone to access the internet and allow to download and install something. So you just go here. It will ask you that what kind of things you are looking for. So you can say I want to make this kind of property off to the administrator. That means administrator is allowed to do downloads, to install on this machine, but others are not allowed. So just click on OK. We have changed this property, and now we can see its effect, that now we are able to install it or not, because we have log in here as an administrator. So at this point of time you are using this machine as an administrator. So again I will, and let's say I will write here download WinZip. This is what I want to install on my server. So you can see there are many sites are now providing you for download options, and when you click on it, it will allow you to perform this operation. In the earlier case, when you try to access something, it says IE has been blocked or been protected. So this is our server, and we have all the information. We have just did some operations. So going back to our console, this is our console. Now, one thing, when you finished everything, it's always a good practice to delete your instances. It's a good practice when you are using or working on a free tier. It's always good that you use the resources, you create the instances, but the moment you finish your practice, when you finish your work, because actually we are not running any real time application here. We are not using it for the production purpose. We are simply using it just to have a feel that how the things are working. So it's always good once you have checked or experienced any of the features which is there in the AWS. After using it, you have to delete it. It's always good to avoid any charges that can incur on your account. So it's always a good practice to terminate after you finish your working. So we will terminate it. So just click on it, go here, click on instance state, and then you can terminate and click on terminate. So here you can see that it will say you are failed to terminate. The reason being, while configuring our server, we have one field called termination protection, and there we have actually enabled that property. That means we are saying that we don't want that this instance to be terminated, so it will not allowing us to terminate. But still, if you want to terminate, we need to set its property again. We go to instance setting, and then we change the termination protection property. So here you can see it is enabled. That means it is not allowed to be terminated. But if you want to change this property, you can make it disable and then save it. Once it is saved, you can just refresh the things, and then you can select whichever instance you want to delete. So this is the instance which we are working. We have already disabled the termination protection for this instance. You can see this is the same instance ID here. I go to action, and then I go to instance state, and I can terminate. Now stop instance means you can stop it, and next time when you log into your console, you can start it by just clicking on the start instance, this one, and it will be started again. So you have the different options how you want to deal or handle your instances. At this point of time you want to delete it, so I will click on terminate instance, and it will ask you to confirm. I say yes, and your instance is terminated. So here you can see when you refresh it, it will be actually doing all the necessary processings to terminate. It will just actually, many things are attached to the instance, so it has to properly kind of release these resources and do all the necessary settings before it is to be terminated. So it will take some time. Okay, so this is all that I want to discuss with you regarding the EC2 instances. So there is a lot more to discuss in the coming classes and the coming videos. I will be talking more about the instances and the different features of the AWS. So thank you very much, and again see you in another video on cloud computing and AWS. Okay, bye for now.